Welcome to another exciting episode of Kai-Zen Consciousness. Today, we have a very special guest interview with Dr. Jason Barker. I'm super excited about today's topic, which will be how to remove interferences. So come on and join us. Welcome, Ehnes here. This is Kai-Zen Consciousness, where you can learn to master your life from the inside out. This is Dr. Jason Barker, and welcome to our show. I really, truly appreciate you coming here. So as you know, I have a sort of YouTube channel / trademark called Kai-Zen Consciousness. And what I do with Kai-Zen Consciousness is to teach continuous improvement. So for all of you, this is how Dr. Barker came into my space, and I'm a client / patient of his. He's a chiropractor. He'll tell you about that in a second. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about him. He's the founder of Stagecoach Family Chiropractic in Clemens.
That's right.
He practices and teaches the 5 essentials of max living for optimal health. Dr. Barker serves on the USA Sports Performance Council and traveled with the USA teams to Rio in August 2016. I saw that picture, and that's really awesome. He has advanced certifications in spinal correction, nutrition, pediatrics, and pregnancy care. It's a wide range there, my friend.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Barker found his passion for chiropractic during his last year in Chowan University. Yeah.
Said it correctly.
When he suffered a major neck injury playing college football. You want to tell us about that a little bit, please?
Sure, Kai. I used to weigh 270 pounds back in college football days. Kind of hard to believe looking at me right now. But, here I was, 270 pounds in college football as an offensive lineman, as a center. And literally, during that time of my life, I was the most unhealthiest I'd ever been in my life, too. Being overweight, being diagnosed with certain types of diseases, I was diagnosed with type of diabetes, had high blood pressure. I also was suffering with asthma since I was 2 years old. And, I was always taking medications for this stuff, and also taking a lot of over-the-counter medications like Advil and Tylenol, and it just destroyed my gut during that time too. And overall in my life at that time, I thought I was healthy, but I really wasn't. And I had this pretty nasty neck injury my senior year playing in college, and it was in Greensboro, actually, just right down the road here. And I literally was paralyzed from the hit. And literally that hit really transformed my life for years to come, because that one incident that happened in my life, I literally could not even move at all from the waist up from it. And literally after I was injured like that, I was like, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? When this happened.
Crazy, yeah.
This is kind of my big story of how things developed in my life too. And it's so cool how years ago, almost 15 years ago now, that's what happened in my life. But here I stand before you now, healthy and well and amazingly fit, and on no medications now and no diseases because of the things I'm going to talk about here in a little bit when it comes to my clinic and what it is to do to remove interference in your life.
Okay. So the injury prompted you to ask some tough questions, right, about health and about health care, and you stumbled upon, I guess, the principles of max living.
Yes.
We'll get to that in a second. So what really, when I first met you, it sounded too good to be true. Really, it's... you meet somebody, you hear their story, and I sat in your office and you're going through a really good presentation. I thought that was a really great way to introduce it. But, given the amount of media exposure we have nowadays, I thought, well, is this guy really for real, or is this just another technique to say, look, we're going to move you forward in healthcare in this direction? And, as you know, my wife, she's also part of this, and we both sat down and made that decision that your story actually was legit. So when you speak, and I don't know if you know this, but when you speak, it's not just a presentation. You actually speak from the heart, and that's what connected with me. You got past the man world skeptic, you're on the other side of that table, right? And I said, no, wait a minute, this guy actually is legitimately going about the heart space, and that's where I come from with what I teach. So the removing of interference was the first thing that really kind of, cued my ears, and I went, oh, wait a minute, what does this guy know? Because does he know that he knows? I'm sitting there, and I remember sitting kind of skeptical, sitting back going, yeah, and I was right in the front row, and I'm like, God, I hope this guy doesn't hate me, So that's kind of how that played out, this removal of interference. We're going to get to that in a second, but as he said, he got through all these various ailments. I mean, I think that's phenomenal. You're a tribute to health. This is really great. I will tell you, he's got a gentle hand as far as that all goes. He works on my neck and my spine, and he does make you feel better. I mean, at the end of the day, you see really quick changes, and you want to build upon that.
Exactly.
You don't want to just go, okay, I got to go again, and I hope this does something. I mean, you actually feel empowered to want to make yourself well, which is what the removal of interference really does. All right, so Dr. Barker, again, yes. We are on round 2 of this, so here comes the interview component. And since we left off on removing the interference, my topic, Kai-Zen Consciousness, deals with removing the clutter. Kaizen, without the hyphen, it's a Japanese business term, and it means continuous improvement. So my sort of, and I borrow this is not mine, but if it's broke, fix it. If it ain't broke, fix it anyway, so that's kind of where I'm coming from, is let's just keep on going. There's no need to just hit a plateau and think that's it. I mean, to me, I think, Spirit, Source, God provides infinite abundance, and therefore all we have to do is keep growing with that and into that. And as you've said, hey, we're designed this way, why not actualize that? So this removal of interference, why don't you go ahead and talk about that a little bit, since that's your philosophy of how you approach this healthcare and spinal correction.
Absolutely, Kai. There's many forms of interference in your body that we're accustomed to in this country. But I feel like the #1 key missing link is getting rid of interference from your nervous system. And what I mean by that is this, is that, a lot of times when we look at health, we always base our health on how we look or how we feel. Yeah. Isn't that fair to say? So if we look good, we feel good, and we are on no medications, then we must be doing great. But in reality is this, things like heart disease and cancer, diabetes, we never feel this stuff when it's happening in its early stages, do we? Right. So you can feel fine right now, but then the next day drop dead of a heart attack. That happens in this country every single day. But instead of looking at health on how we look or how we feel, because it's not about what we're putting into our bodies, it's all about how we are healing and functioning. Those are the key words when it comes to health, is healing and functioning, Right. So when I teach my patients these things and they start to understand a new perspective on their health, I start to talk about how, how do we take care of the most important system in our body, which is our brain and spinal cord and nervous system. Mm-hmm. But you see, how we take care of that is we have to look at to the spine first, because your spine is what surrounds and protects the nerves, right? Yep. So God made us perfect and whole like that, and we got to have this nervous system in the right position, and also our spine in the right position as well. Which, if you look at a spine, if you're facing me right now, our spine should be wet from the front.
Should be straight, right?
Nice and straight.
Nice and straight.
And then I pretty much think we all know that, right? But then also, if you turn your spine to the side, it should not be straight.
Right. Should have 2 curves?
3 curves.
3, yeah. Well, yeah, the bottom one. I forgot that one.
It should be curving your neck and your mid-back and your lower back.
Right.
And they're measuring it at 45 degrees. And when your spine is in that correct alignment, you are healing and functioning, and you have no interference in your nerve system. Which means your brain is connected through your nerves and all the way to your organs at 100%. So if you're healing and functioning 100% and have no interference, would there be any cases of problems with your body?
Should not be.
Should be not any health issues, because everything's healing and functioning. So when I talk about removing interference, what removes the interference is the adjustments that we do. If there's pressure on that nerve in your body, in your spine, we have to get the pressure off of it.
And I think that's, so far that's what I've experienced. I mean, I walk away from the adjustments as though if the body's going to heal itself, then that's what I go into it with, the adjustment, and that's what I get from it. I walk away with that confirmation that it's okay to heal itself. Mm-hmm. Because you've cleared up whatever that is at that moment, and now we go back. Because, I mean, this reminds me of the story of the frog in the water. When you put a frog into cold water and then turn it up, it doesn't know any better, and eventually it's boiling. But you put it into that boiling water. So I mean, I've spent many years creating problems in my body, and you can't expect those to be gone overnight. But I will tell you, it's been 4 weeks now that we've been on this, going almost 5, and I can see major improvements. So I feel better. I've always been on a quest to feel better, but I actually get to feel better now, you know, and that's something I couldn't do myself. There weren't enough supplements, there weren't enough yoga stretches that I could get this straight.
That's true, yeah.
All right, the next question is something that I had early on in my course, and that's the notion of longevity, to live a long time. I kind of threw at him the other day. I said, so how long do you want to live? And I gave him a couple of days to think about this, so I'm going to call you out. So how long would you like to live? Like, not that you have to have a date and time, but I mean, like, how far do you expect this to go?
You know, Kai is the first guy to ever ask me that question in my life, and here I am, I'm 35 years old right now, so obviously I'm very young. So asking a 35-year-old, you know, how long do you really want to live? And I thought about it the last couple of days, and I really looked at, like, you know, at first I gave it a range. I said, well, it should be between 100 and 120. You know,
yeah.
I just gave it a range, you know. But like, if I were to say, you know, if I really wanted to live a long, happy, and amazing longevity life, I think 120 is a good one to shoot for.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, but I have to make sure that, you know, like, to get there, like, it's almost like the question of how do we get there. But like, we'll talk about that in a little bit too. But we have to do the right things now at 35 to get there as best as possible.
Well, when I asked him this, and I've been saying this for a couple of years, I want to be 125. So not to outdo you, but that's just, you know, I picked that number. And when I say that to somebody, they'll come back at me and say, why would you want to do that? You're going to be in so much pain those last 30, 40, 50 years of your life. You won't even be able to get out of bed. You're going to feel horrible. And I don't think that that's necessarily true. First of all, I don't really like when someone else sets reality for me. I like to kind of try and figure that on my own. But
absolutely, yep.
Part two, I think we are designed to live quite a while. There are many centenarians, right? I mean,
There are many centenarians and also super centenarians. They're actually at around 120 years old, 110 to 120. And when I look at the research of, they're called the blue zones. Like, for example, Okinawa, Japan. They have these areas called the blue zones where they have a lot of centenarians and super centenarians that live in this community. And the one thing they found out was that since they're a tightly knit group, they had healthy, sustained relationships. And that's what kept them emotionally sound despite the physical pain that they were in during that time in their life. And that helped them to live longer because of that. Their minds were a lot sharper because of it too. Their memory was so much more sharper because of it. I mean, that's some cool stuff, you know, to know, because even Harvard did a study on, it's the longest study ever been done on happiness, because they said these people were so happy with their life, even at this point in their life as well. They said that it wasn't all about money and fame during that 75 years of the study. They said it was all about the healthy, sustained relationship with your family and your friends.
Yeah. Yeah, I could absolutely see that. I mean, I think part of undoing, you know, removing interference are a lot of the mental states of mind that we've been conditioned over the last, you know, over your lifetime, that have been pushed onto you and into you. And of course, money's nice. Who wouldn't want, you know, to have, well, you know, a good amount of money? That's not an issue. But this quality over quantity, I think, is really important. But I don't think it needs to be exclusively one or the other. I think there's a way to move forward here. And you know, prior to meeting you, my discoveries were along the lines of there is an operator's manual that's lacking on how to live on this planet. Yep. I mean, we find ourselves kind of thrown here, and you're you know, hello, you know, and now you have to fend for life. But as you grow, there's still no operator's manual. There are some out there, obviously, but this definitive guide on how to grow here, on how to be a man, for example, in society nowadays, in this culture, how to be a middle-aged man, an old-aged man, or just, you know, it doesn't have to be man, but there's no operator's manual that I find that is consistent enough, so we keep stumbling and stepping into this trial and error phase. Part of this video is to hopefully give some sense of that there is a way to live, and there's a clean way. So, you know, you want to clean up that clutter, you got to just kind of go ahead and do it and live clean. I mean, clean living, and there's a way to go about doing that. It's different for everybody, but there is a way to be clean, right?
Exactly. I'm a firm believer in setting up your environments, like your home, your work environment, set it up for success. You know, like, you know, the house that we're in right now, like, it's amazingly set up for success in the environment. It's in the country. I mean, it's just clean, livable, sustainable living out here. And because, like, you know, when we live when you live in an environment that's full of toxins, because toxins are everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
We can't escape the toxins.
Right.
But so we have to learn how to avoid certain ones that are, that are in the air, that are in the, certain parts of the house. Also, the foods that we eat too. I feel like the number one problem is the types of foods that we eat, the standard American diet.
Yeah.
That's why I call it the SAD diet, standard American diet.
Yeah.
So like eating the processed foods, basically it's food that's made by man that creates the interference, creates more trash and clutter inside of our bodies, right? And it's hard for that to get out, and it creates more disease down the road. So we have to turn that into more, God-related foods. Like God put foods here on this earth for us to eat to reduce the clutter in our lives too.
Right. One of my initiatives that I'm part of is a regenerative design program, and the first thing we're doing is getting into gardening. I mean, that's what we're finding. Interesting study, I don't know if you're aware of this, but when you put your hands into the dirt and you're actually, without the gloves, you're actually working with the plants, there are tiny microbes that actually travel through your body that actually will release serotonin and make you feel better. So
I did not know that. That's pretty cool.
yeah, I heard that, and then I looked it up. I said, oh yeah, there actually is, and it's a good study. So
serotonin's your happy hormone, so keep that at a high rate.
Right, that's great. All right, so we were talking about the quality and quantity. So I think it'd be nice if you kind of tapped into that a little bit further. So what are your thoughts on that?
Because you've heard that concept before, quality is better than quantity in certain cases. So when it comes to the foods that we eat, it's not about the number of calories that you eat, because really it's just, the same amount of calories that's in a Twinkie is the same amount of calories that's in 22 pieces of almonds, right? But which one's healthier for you, Right. So it's all about quality of the nutrients that you put into your body, and for sustainability when it comes to the foods you put into your body. But also too, when it comes to our relationships, it's not about how many people you have on Facebook, how many likes you have on Facebook, or how many friends you have on Facebook. It's about the quality relationships you have with people.
Right.
And that's what they talked about in the study too, is about it had to be healthy, sustained relationships with your family and with your friends, with your close friends.
One of the things that you teach is that you should eat a nutrient-rich diet, so that the foods you eat are nutrient-rich, and we've been following that. Interestingly, it takes less food. You're not eating as often, and I actually enjoy the food very much. I mean, it's not a prescribed diet. It's just a matter of really picking the foods that you think are going to be okay to eat, and you eventually start to expand your palate. But was never a big fan of avocados, I will tell you. That was just I was one of those things where, no. But he described it by simply saying, well, just put some seasoning on there. And
yeah.
I tried it, and now we put it on toast with some seasoning. And, that's really good stuff. So
I really tell you this, Kai, little changes make a big difference when it comes to making habit changes in like what you're eating, for example. It's hard to go from eating this certain way for years to 100% eating the way that I've been eating for years. It takes a transition phase to get there in a habit change. So what Kai was talking about there was, starting to make little small changes to certain foods that he did not like, but now he likes it because he made some small changes to it.
Right, and one of your staff members, she's so happy. She's really, Stacy, yeah. She's really happy. It's nice. And she said, and she was talking to the group, and she said, one change a week. And I think so. I think that's if you want to start, change whatever that little tiny thing is, one thing a week. And the latest thing we kicked is the processed sugar. Mm-hmm. I thought we were eating healthy, brown sugar and the Demerara sugar, and hey, we got this, And I'll tell you, getting rid of that, we've now put coconut palm sugar into our diet, and there were little aches and pains that I thought were just normal that are gone. I mean, absolutely done and gone, and it's been about 10 days. So, I'm sure a lot of that is also the adjustments that you're doing on top of all this, but I can say, hey, these changes are actually making a real difference in my life.
And I feel like the more interference you remove from your body, the faster you're going to heal too, because you're removing a lot more clutter at one time.
Yeah. So we'll either do this next or we'll do it later, but I asked him, I said, so if all this clutter is removed, what's that life like? What is this clean, healed, healthy, balanced? Wow, what is that? Do you want to talk about it? I think.
Sure, yeah. I think a healthy, sustained life. I feel like it's every single day we're making decisions towards our health, right? Mm-hmm. Every single day we're making our time, money, resources go towards either building health or building disease. So what that looks like for me and for the vision I have for like our families, especially in this town, is that they're raised up on no drugs, no medications, and no unnecessary surgeries down the road. That they're living this amazing life. They're the best mother, father, they're the best husband, they're the best wife, they're the best kid that they can be, the best version of themselves. And they can also do the things they love to do and the things they're called to do. When you have your health, you can do both those things, can't you?
Yeah, the reacting to a call, you know, knowing what you're called to do, that is an amazing, to me, higher level of living.
Yes.
But that's hard to do when you're constantly distressed, when you're in that level of disease you're talking about. When you're fighting those bottom layers of needs, it's really hard to get to that higher level. But I mean, part of what I want to do this for, part of why I do all this work, and I'm sure what motivates you, you know, our higher why, our higher passion, and we'll answer that. So for me, my why, my higher passion, my higher purpose is to bring this higher level of being, this higher frequency where you can respond to a call, where you know that you're being called at that moment to act. I want to be aware of it. I want to be able to act upon it, do it quickly, do it virtuously. That's what drives me to do all of this. That's what this process of living for me right now is all about. And what you're doing for me, for my health, is allowing me to do that. So what's your why?
Wow. So I call this your big why. You know, this is what I teach my patients all the time to develop themselves. And a lot of times they develop it on their own and they just tell me this when I'm adjusting them, or they tell me this in workshops and that sort of thing too. But for me, you know, my big why is my dad from years ago. This is actually, and you know the story with him as well. You know, years ago I was telling my story earlier about being 270 pounds, college football player on 3 different diseases and medications for that too. During that time of my life, my dad was the same size. You know, he was on 3 medications himself, and one of those was a blood pressure med they took for over 15 years straight. And I'll never forget this day right here. I mean, this is what drives me every single day to help reach other people to get their health potential at 100%. My dad literally wakes up one morning very early and suffers a massive heart attack and drops dead very quickly. And my twin brother and I, my mom, were like, you know, we had the ambulance to try to come to revive him, but like, you know, obviously in that state you have nothing. I mean, there's nothing you can do. But literally, you know, it gave me a big wake-up call in me. My heart just started, like, you know, changing. You know, and I started having this heart for other people and this heart to, like, change my life and my health. And, like, I realized God installed that in my life to, like, realize this is my why and this is what's going to help drive me to live out my purpose for the rest of my life. And, like, fast forward later now, you know, 12 years, I mean, there's been thousands of people, including yourself, that's been transformed in their life in some way, shape, or form through the 5 essentials of max living that changed my life, you know, when I started looking for health. So that's my big why, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's neat because a big why, and one of my videos is part 2 of the why, is your why actually big enough? Because having a why might be, well, I want to provide for my family, and that's great, but that may not be big enough. You may not be able to get past the paying of the bills and driving them to soccer or something, you know what I mean? So a big enough why, you wake up every day and you can't wait to get going. I mean, it is really true. Have you felt that too? Yes,
and I call this like spending time in the morning. Like, you know, I think about, actually what I do is a lot of times I wake up in the morning and I'll just think about that day when it happened. And it just, you know, I just feel this physiological change in my body. I'm like, okay, now I'm ready to save lives because I want to make sure nobody's going to get in that situation today. Who can I help transform today that's going to move them forward in their health?
That's phenomenal, man.
So it literally just like, that's really what happens to me every single day when I think about my big why and I use it.
Yeah, right.
And that's a big enough why, like Kai was talking about. Trying to look good in a bathing suit for the summer is not a big enough why. Most of us will give up by that time. You know, we'll try a diet and things like that. You know, some of us actually follow through with it, you know, but you have to be super committed. You know, but when you have a bigger why, you can endure almost any how. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's good. Wow, philosopher. All right, so what are the most important things that you teach, that you think we can do and use to increase our health?
Very good question. You know, it's hard to put a number to that, but I really think you can boil it down to there's certain essentials in our life that we must do to help remove interference and also create this amazing healing to happen into our bodies, you know, mind, body, and spirit. And I believe, you know, the first one, you know, I talked about how we have to make sure that our nervous system is functioning 100%. That's one thing. So by getting adjusted, so I mean, to me, I'm gonna get adjusted for the rest of my life to make sure that my nervous system is boosting healing to my body for human potential at its optimum. Now, another thing too is also eating foods that are made by God, not by man. So eating foods that are like, raw and organic foods. Focusing on a lot of good fats, a lot of grass-fed meats. If you eat meats, grass-fed and things like that. If you're vegetarian, not a problem there. But also make sure you eat a lot of good, healthy, clean vegetables too. And I feel like your body's going to sustain more from nutrients versus like just calorie-based. So I feel like that's one important thing there too. And then one thing we haven't talked about is also exercise.
Hey.
Like God designed us, to move.
Yeah.
Every single day.
I think so,
like
man.
then when we looked at the studies with the longevity studies with the centenarians, they had enjoyable exercise they did every single day. They walked everywhere they went. They enjoyed some type of activity with their family and their friends every single day. And also, they didn't really have to have a gym membership. So you don't have to you don't have to go into a gym to get exercise, which a lot of people do that, which I recommend doing that type of exercise too. But be active every single day in your life, and you're going to have an amazing body that's going to sustain that too.
Yeah, I want to throw in there that an easy way to do that is to build a life around that lifestyle. So, we do that here. I mean, this is not a place that would be what it is if we didn't do the work, So, I mean, we are busy. And I have one of those Fitbits, and, on an average day, I do at least 15,000 steps, usually around 17, 18,000, and that's during the week. And that's just the walking component. That's not anything else that's involved. I mean, my whole body, we just move all the time. And then you go to sleep and you get up early, early to bed, early to rise. I mean, that's our philosophy. We're up at 5:30, feed the horses, and, dogs all want to play. And that's just it's just a lifestyle. Yep. And days I don't want to do it, they carry me because they want to continue that lifestyle on a daily basis, obviously. So, yeah, I agree. There's a way to do it, to enjoy it. That's really important, that you enjoy what you're doing and not just pushing. You actually, so building a lifestyle around it is an easy way to incorporate that.
I find that, the number one cause of like falls in the elderly and like problems with like people's lives when they get older is that they're living a more sedentary lifestyle. And you hit around the money there. We have to develop this activity and being active as a lifestyle instead of just like, okay, let's just do it for 30 days, and then just go back to my old lifestyle. Let me redo it again 30 days, later on in the year, or something like that. It needs to be a healthy, sustained, lifelong thing is to move our bodies. Yep.
So one of the things he does in his practice while you're waiting to be adjusted is he's got this room set up where they have you kind of warm up, and I've never seen a waiting room where you actually do something. Every waiting room I've ever been in, you just wait.
You sit and wait, get on your phone like this, and
yeah, and I mean they're talking, they're teaching, they're helping you, figure out what to buy at the grocery store, and what's the topic of the week, and come join us, and bubbly, there's music playing. I mean, and you're just sitting there working. You're not working out, but you're warming up. It's phenomenal. I mean, there's so much positivity when you walk in there. That's what I mean about the mindset. We like going to your office. It's not just, I gotta go to the doctor. What I mean? You want to go because of course you got to start, but once you start moving, you realize, hey, we're doing this, and you warm up, and on top of that, it helps the adjustment, I guess, work better, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Your spine moves better when it's warmed up. Just like when you work out, you got to warm up before you do the workout. And also you hit on something big there about a positive mindset too. That's the next thing I was getting into is we have to have a positive mindset and outlook on life. There's been so much depression, anxiety, and negativity in the world right now, and worry and despair about family, friends, health, and things like that, and fear of the future. There's so much of that right now that we have to learn to have this positive mindset. And I feel like one of the biggest ways to do that is to wake up early in the morning, where it's still dark outside, and you go to this space where it's like you're by yourself, close your eyes, do breathing techniques to calm your mind down that Kai talks about in some of the videos as well, and also just start visualizing positivity and amazing things that is going to happen that day for you. Then start spouting out positive affirmations in your life. I have my own affirmations that I've written, and I read those to myself and speak life into myself every single day to create positive energy in my life.
That's that line, I'm going to steal that at some point. To speak life, positivity, or to speak life into yourself. Absolutely.
Yep.
I do it first thing. I mean, when I wake up, first thing I do is I go through, for me, it's a gratitude list. I'm just grateful. I communicate with the source energy, with God, and I'm just thankful. I don't ask for anything other than, could you just listen for a second, because I want to tell you how grateful I am, you know, for this life. And yeah, you speak life into your system. Boy, that's
and that's what,
wow.
And every time I'm making the adjustments, you know, with all the patients, you know, I'm always speaking life into you. And I was telling you this the other day, you know, like whenever I'm making that adjustment, I know that adjustment is going to remove interference better than it did when it was before. And I always visualize that bone moving off the nerve and visualizing your brain turning the healing power back on to the body. That's why after every adjustment I say your power's on.
Yeah.
Or the power's back on.
There you go. Yeah, the power's on.
From the brain is back on. Your body's going to function so much better than when you came in. And then I speak an amazing life mantra to you before you go, because that right there can like dictate how you win your day, basically. So I always say win the day by winning your mornings.
Yeah. Right? I mean, when you do things during the day, you just speak that life of what you want from it right before it happens, you know? I mean, I think that's phenomenal. All right. Scientists are sort of cluing us in about longevity and life expectancy. And when I was growing up, life expectancy just got longer and longer, and all of a sudden, you know, 78 turned into 80, 81, 82. But recent research is suggesting that this life expectancy is actually going to come back down. So this current generation, the new generation that's coming up the ranks, they're expected to not live as long as what you and I and those that came right around us are supposed to be, you know, experiencing. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, at first, you know, it really saddens me, and it really just frustrates me that that's really happening in our country right now. You know, so it's like when I see stuff like that, like I really want to do my part and do something about it. And I feel like, you know, within my clinic, we're doing something about that, because we're starting to notice, you know, people starting to do things like reduce medication use. You know, the average person in this country, guess how many medications they're taking a day?
Average person, I'll take a shot, 5?
13.4 medications a day.
Wow.
It used to be between 5 and 7 years ago, but now it's been getting a lot worse. And when you look at the rates of heart disease and cancer and diabetes, fibromyalgia, Alzheimer's, dementia, all the rates of these diseases are doing what?
It's going up, man.
Going up. So like that will contribute to like this generation now not outliving their parents, because there's more disease, there's more interference, there's more clutter, there's more things going on out there. Plus, think about our modern day technology right now. Like especially like think about our kids right now. Like I literally, whenever I drive by bus stops where kids are like waiting on the bus, and there's 10 kids out there waiting on the bus. Guess how many of them are on their what? Phones doing this right here.
Yeah.
And think about what that's doing to the spine and nervous system, for one thing. What's that doing to the kid's brain when their brain is still developing? Yeah. I mean, there are 2 or 3 or 4 year olds where the parents give them these phones here, and it actually really messes up some of their you know, parts of their brains, because they're still developing. Their social skills become underdeveloped. Yeah. And that can lead down the road to like more problems with ADHD, more memory problems, which means if the kid grows up and never actually does anything about it, that means it can turn into early what? Dementia, Alzheimer's, which you know how that works out too for most people, right?
Well, this part of this new generation, excuse me, is that they are labeled as being very individualistic because of these devices, because they're so busy being in this world, because they communicate through the digital world, that when they're face to face, they can't really have a decent conversation that goes beyond several sentences, because that's not what they're used to doing. They're used to being in this sort of filter through the digital world.
And that's so true, yeah.
So I think part of what he's doing is actually trying to make not only a difference, that's nice, but he's actually doing something about it. He's actually physically and spiritually and emotionally involved with his entire business. His entire model is built on helping these people, and the ones that come in actually, I think, benefit from what you're doing.
Absolutely. And that's what drives me to show up a lot too. It's you know, obviously my big why too, but also just, you know, just seeing the life change in people, whether it's small or big. You know, I celebrate the wins. When somebody comes off of medication, and when your doctor takes you off of medication, you know, we have that drug jug in the office where patients just like we do a little ceremony in front of people and say, look, this is so and so. They this is what they've been going through, and like their doctor just took them off this, and they're doing so much better. And they drop them that drug jug and they become free. Because a lot of times doctors tell you you're going to take this medications for what?
The rest of your life.
The rest of your life. So like that almost like being freed from something right there. You know, freedom feels so much better, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, I go back to your removing of clutter. I mean, if you're on these medications, all the side effects that they list just add to the clutter, and then they, you know, they compound because they're bouncing off of each other, these drugs. And I mean, you don't even know that you're having all these side effects, really, because you think that's normal because you're on the medication and you're supposed to be getting better, yet it's just cluttering more and more.
And it does create a lot of interference in the brain, in the way of thinking. You know, it's almost like it's almost like an onion. It makes all these layers in your brain, and a lot of times, you know, as a doctor and a healthcare provider, I have to peel through these layers to get to the root cause of the problem, get you to think better, you know, on certain things. Because sometimes it takes a while for us men to like try to change, right?
Right.
You know, and that's really what it boils down to, is going through those layers, and also, you know, getting somebody to, like, you know, transform their life and then make the habit. And then once they do, they become free. I had one guy just the other day tell me when he first started care, I mean, he just felt so bad. He was in pain all the time, taking pain meds, and, like, you know, had other health issues and heart problems too. He said, during that time, I just felt mean to people, and I couldn't, like, be nice because I felt terrible. But after going through a couple months of the adjustments and removing interference, and he started doing a lot of the nutritional changes and exercise changes, he said, now my outlook on life is so amazing. I'm so much happier. I actually treat my wife and my kids and everybody a lot better now because of it.
That's really neat, yeah. And I mean, you know, again, some of the work that I do with people, you have to dig back into childhood and see what was kind of, you know, put into your space and things you have to undo as you get older, because you have to go back and say, wait a minute, that's not how I really want to operate. But I mean, what if a lot of that nowadays is due to just how the medications make you behave? So now you're impacting other people and you're not even realizing that you're doing this. But if you're listening to this, and maybe you'll listen to it more than once, there will be a pattern that will, at the end of this, that will have emerged that will show clean living. And what that clean living is, you'll hear it. As you go through this whole video here, you'll see that there is this clean life that's possible. And I mean, you see us smiling. We're not doing this because we're behind, you know, we're just looking at a camera. We actually live like this. I see him, he's happy to, you know, hey, how are you? He's happy to see me. You know, I'm looking forward to seeing him. I mean, we're happier people. I think a lot of this is what clean living is. I don't think we have it cornered. I wouldn't say I'm an expert on it, but I enjoy learning about the foods. I enjoy the exercise is the correct exercise. I don't take medication, so I don't have anything to put in your drug jug, but that's just, I'm already happy about that. But what I'm going to bring to the drug jug is some avocado with some seasoning spread out on that good seed bread. So that'll be my...
We got to make sure it fits in there first, though. Get a smaller avocado, yeah.
All right, so I think, you know, we've had a good time doing this.
I enjoyed this time, too, yeah.
So, Dr. Barker, thank you very much. I would like to, before we leave, I would like to say, let me do sort of a quick recap with you on what you think are some of the main highlight points of what we talked about that lead to longevity and quality and this good, clean living.
I think, you know, we have to reduce the clutter and remove the interference is number one.
Okay.
I'd say. And also, too, we have to make sure we're having healthy, sustained relationships for longevity over life. And also, too, we got to make sure it's more about quality than the quantity of the numbers of things. And also, we got to make sure that we have this clear purpose and big why in our life. You know, because, like, you know, when you have all those things right there, you're setting your body and your mind and your environment up for success, for longevity and sustainability down the road. And on top of that, when it comes to your health, we have to make sure that we are having a healthy functioning nervous system by getting adjusted on a weekly basis. We also got to make sure we're eating good foods that actually God made for us to eat. Also, having enjoyable exercise, reduce the toxins by reducing the medications, by getting healthier, and also having this amazing positive champion mindset as well.
Okay. Well, I second everything you said, so this is great. It's Dr. Jason Barker, chiropractic. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.